Thank you, David. That was lovely. Good morning, and welcome to Eliot Chapel. Whether you are here on site or joining us remotely, we are one in this time together. I'm Trina Precy, and this morning I'm assisting our interim lead minister, Reverend Doug Watkins. Eliot is a liberal religious community of spiritual seekers. We welcome you in the fullness of your age, race, ethnicity, your ways of being in body and mind, your gender expression, sexual orientation, and religious background. Our core values are freedom, reason, respect, and love. If you're visiting, a special welcome to you. Please fill out the guest form you received on the way in so we can stay in touch with you. If you have children with you, you can add that information on the back of the card. If you didn't get a form, see an usher after the service and they'll help you out. And if you're visiting online, let us know you're here by emailing welcome@eliotchapel.org, and we'll personally reach out to welcome you to this beloved community. Whichever way you're joining us, I hope that today's message speaks to your being and that we will see you again soon. After the service, everyone's invited to move to Adams Hall through this door. Sorry. Let me just knock Doug out of the way. To the left here for our ritual of coffee and conversation, and I promise there won't be any physical altercation. If you're new or newish, grab a blue cup so we can say a special hello to you. We know that there are many options for your Sunday morning, and we're grateful you've chosen to be here today.
Our services usually begin with a chalice lighting. We will do so today. And the chalice lighting can represent many things. To invoke some of what we gather around today, we use the words of Andrea Hawkins Camper.
Blessed are we who gather with open hearts together in this space today.
Blessed are we, the chalice lighters of resistance, justice, love, and faith.
Blessed are we, the heretics, the outcasts, the walkers of our own way.
Blessed are we, the border crossers, the refugees, the immigrants, the poor, the wanderers who are not lost.
Blessed are we, the transgressors, the trespassers, the passerbys, the cause takers, the defiant, the compliant.
Blessed are we, the hand extenders, the sign makers, the protesters, the protectors.
Blessed are we, the trans women, the trans men, the non-binary, the cisgender, the multigender, the no gender.
Blessed are we, the friend, the stranger, the lonely, the hidden, the visible, the authentic.
Blessed are we who rise in solidarity. Blessed are we who cannot. Blessed are we who do not.
Blessed are we, for this is our beloved community, and this is who we are. I invite you to rise in all of the ways that we do and join us in our opening hymn, 1017, Building a New Way.
Please join me in reading the covenant. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and respect. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be. To listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart. To speak responsibly and respectfully, and to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends.
Time for a time for all ages. Hello, Scott. Welcome back.
Hi. Thank you.
Hope you had
It's
a good time
back.
away.
We did.
Excellent. Well, what are we going to do today?
Well, we have a special time for all ages titled The Weight of a Snowflake by Joseph Jaworski, and we invited two friends to share the story with you today. Not from the audience, don't worry. Not from the hawk.
And the bunting. Okay, that was good. Thank you.
So the hawk said to the bunting, "Tell me the weight of a snowflake."
And the bunting replied, "Why, it weighs nothing at all."
Well, in that case, I must tell you a marvelous story. I was sitting on the branch of a fir tree, close to the trunk, when a snow began to fall. Not heavily, mind you, not a raging blizzard, no, just like a dream without any violence. I didn't have anything better to do, and there weren't any mice or snakes to catch for my next meal, so I started to count the snowflakes. I settled on the needles and the twigs, and I reached the number 3,741,952. And then, when the 3,741,953rd snowflake dropped onto the branch, weighing nothing, as you say, the branch suddenly broke off.
The bunting thought about that story and said to herself, "You know, sometimes I think all my effort and the little that I can do makes no difference. We might think that they are nothing at all. But if we put all of our efforts together, great things are possible." So as we begin a new month, we begin a new theme. And our theme this month is resistance, the ways, the choices that we make over and over again every day, probably thousands of times, and what we choose to do, what we choose not to do. Sometimes we go against the flow of what other people choose to do, and we may think that those choices don't matter. But I love that the story reminds us that, especially when we are combined as a community and communities of communities on this planet, what a difference it makes each and every choice. So, good way to start this month. Thank you, Scott. Why don't we sing folks out with "From You I Receive," and we'll look forward to hearing more about religious education at the end of the service. As is our custom most weeks, we move now into a more quiet and centering time, inviting you to bring your full being to this place. So let's begin by being aware of how we are seated and find a way to sit that feels comfortable and balanced, connected to the earth below you, even if by extension, and aware of our connection with each other. from that place of deep connection, become aware of your breathing for a moment. And with some intention, breathing naturally, be aware of where you feel that breath most in your body right now. Perhaps as it flows in through the nostrils, or in the rising of your chest, or in the expanding near the diaphragm, wherever it may be, for just a moment, let that awareness be a place of centering. Spirit of life, help us be present with all that is our life, both our deepest sorrows and our greatest joys, so that we can truly live, engaging fully in our own life and in our community. Spirit of community, help us know how linked we are, how each one of us and our cares touch one and all. Help us to ask for support when we are in need, and to offer our support to others whenever we are able, so that we may rest in the solace of one another's love. Spirit of love, help us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, so that we might fully embody love and resist hatred. Spirit of resistance, help us to stick up for what is right, even when we are tired or afraid. Help us to dream of the world as it should be, and to act to bring about that world. Help us find hope each day. Spirit of hope, help us through this day and each day. Help us be present for all that is our life. For a moment, before we spend a few deep breaths of quiet, who are you carrying in your mind and heart this morning? I invite you to draw them fully to mind, hold them for a moment. And if it would be meaningful to do so, I invite you to speak their name out loud now. Will you join me for a few quiet moments? May we indeed be engaged in all that is our life. For all that we hold in our minds and hearts, we offer a sense of deep connection, of healing or celebration or honoring in whatever way is most appropriate. Holding all this and more in the spirit of love. Together we pray. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to remain seated and join in 391, Voice Still and Small. We move into our time of offering, which always seeks to do many things, but most of all, it is a time of reflection, reflecting on what is true for our lives and what we are called to do with all of that, but especially that in which we are gifted. And we are in the season when we think about how, for the next year, we wish to share all of what we are given to help this community be strong. So we invite some folks to talk about their own journey and some of why this place is important to them. And so I would like to invite Trish Williams to come share some of her thoughts this morning. Welcome, Trish.
Good morning. My name is Trish Williams. My husband Bruce and I joined Eliot Chapel 50 years ago, right after we moved to Glendale. We were from California originally and really didn't know anyone here at all. Bruce was raised Unitarian and I was raised American Baptist. Quite different. We were seeking a church where we could both feel comfortable living our values and beliefs and be a part of a community. Eliot Chapel and the wonderful welcoming people we found here over the years became our St. Louis family. Eliot Chapel community soon became our multi-generational circle of friends and gave us many opportunities to become involved. Our daughter Katie attended every class of RE and went on to teach Children's Forum. Bruce and I taught many different levels of RE and taught UUA marriage enrichment classes. As a family, Eliot gave us so many opportunities to give in service through various programs. Christmas in July, Room at the Inn, Clinton Peabody Project, Southside Early Childhood Center, and later vigils on Tuesday evenings. We, Bruce and I, felt Eliot gave us the opportunity to teach and live our values with our daughter in putting values into action and service. Bruce co-chaired the building campaign that led to Adams Hall. Both Bruce and I at different times had the opportunity to serve on the Board of Trustees, and Bruce was chair for one term. I was asked to chair the search committee in 2001. We were active in circle suppers, covenant groups, and involved in fundraising efforts for Eliot for many years. Bruce loved the men's advance at Bergfried, which was often on his birthday, which was where he wanted to be. I have been a part of Women's Alliance off and on since 1977, and I love Women's Weekend, which I am so looking forward to getting back to this spring after many years away. We have given much in time, talent, and treasure over these 50 years, but the Eliot community, forgive me, but the Eliot community has given so much more back to us. The opportunity to live out our values, friendship, shared values, challenging, thoughtful discussions, care and concern, and many, many good times. It is the wonderful people of Eliot who sustained Bruce and me through his 13-year challenge of Alzheimer's disease. This and his welcoming, accepting friends here always will be a treasure and one of my fondest memories. I will continue to forever cherish this Eliot Chapel community and serve in any way that I can in time, talent, and treasure. I don't want Eliot to return to what was. That was wonderful for us then. I want Eliot Chapel to grow and thrive and become what serves our shared values and the community that is here today, young families and oldsters alike, and the times we live in today and going forward. For that, we need everyone's contribution. I ask you to join me in sharing your time, talent, and treasures to help Eliot grow and build a community for today and for our future together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trish. It is such an important time for us to remember what's deeply meaningful about this community. One of the things that is also meaningful is how important our connections to the larger community are, and so we are very intentional about that. Every month we give back half of our offering to an important organization that does good work. This month we will be sharing our offering with Teen Pregnancy and Prevention Partnership, which works across Missouri to promote adolescent sexual and reproductive health. They educate parents, professionals, and the community at large, collaborating with teenagers, school districts, legislatures, faith communities, and trying to empower teens to receive accurate and helpful information, reflect on what a healthy life and fulfillment would mean for them, and to make good choices. Especially in this time, for so many reasons, this would be a very complicated time as teenagers are exploring who they are as human beings and as they grow into the world. This is important work. May you find a way to be generous as you can, as our offering is given and received in love. Our greeters come forward with the offering. May we dedicate these gifts for their important purpose. I invite you to look at the dedication of gifts printed in your order of service. As together we say, to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these our offerings. Thanks to you all for your generosity.
Today's reading is called Liberation Just Below the Surface, and it's by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Someone has to be the first one to go. When the seas are stubborn and the ground and the sky are giving us only gray and gloom. Someone has to see the spring that's just below the surface, the crocus about to launch, the green in the brown grass, the path that's about to be made clear, the freedom that's calling after the leap, the leaving behind, the letting go of everything you ever knew and anything it meant to live. It takes a reckless sort of dreaming, a courage you'd usually shrug off, like it belonged to old tales of escape from Egypt or emperors, like it belonged to someone more powerful, more official, someone less filled up with grocery lists and bills to pay, marriages to manage, and all those justice reports to read. We come to link arms and to claim a call that is collective, believing we can go together and hold each other into the deep. In this journey for justice and liberation, trusting we can sing, not just at the end, but the whole way there, feeling in our bodies this promise of something more beautiful being born. We come to remind each other we were always this brave, that we've had all we need to walk this way the whole time, that we are the ones we've been waiting for to say to each other, let's begin now.
choir. Everyone was starkly quiet. Robert Deneau, the surrealist poet, was among those loaded onto a truck leaving the concentration camp in World War II, where he had been imprisoned with others for his work in the French resistance. And the mood was very grim because it was well known amongst the people in the concentration camp that those placed on this truck did not return. And as the truck slowed to a stop out in the middle of nowhere in a field, no one spoke. Even the guards were silent. Unexpectedly, breaking the silence, Deneau turned to the man next to him and took his hand and looked at his palm and said loudly, "Oh, I see you have a very long lifeline, and you are going to have 3 children." Deneau was exuberant, and he turned to the other man and yet another, each reading their palms, and soon one person after another offered up their hands, and every time, exuberantly, there was a prediction for longevity and abundant joy. And as he read more palms, not only did the mood of the prisoners change, but that of the guards too. Perhaps the element of surprise planted a shadow of doubt in the guards' minds about the usual outcome of this truck ride. Although they told themselves that these deaths were inevitable, this no longer seemed certain. They were, in any case, so disoriented by this sudden change of mood among those that they were about to kill that they were unable to go through with the executions. And so on that day, all of the prisoners, along with Deneau, were packed back into the truck and taken back to the barracks. Deneau saved not only his own life, but the lives of others by resisting through his imagination. Author Susan Griffin writes about this amazing moment. In the harsh world of the concentration camp, whose regime was designed to crush both body and spirit, how was it possible for Deneau to keep the larger possibilities of life alive in his mind? I'm really deeply grateful for this month's theme of resistance. Over the last many years, I've thought a lot about resistance and worked a lot in my own life and in the life of the congregation. And I think there is a lot to unpack and think about, much of which, every time I explore it, still surprises me in what it asks me to think about in terms of what I resist. Joan Didion reminds us, resistance involves a significant range of who we are. Resistance is essential to life at all times and in all places. A certain amount of resistance is good for anybody. It keeps you awake. I think about November 9, 2016, and I remember very clearly that morning I woke up and first thing checked the news on my phone to see what the election results were. And I will admit that I felt not only a deep sadness about what I saw on my phone, but also incredible anxiety. And I knew there was work to do that day, and I was grateful for it. At the time, I was serving in Ann Arbor, and I went and we set up the chapel, which was a different section from the sanctuary, smaller, for the whole day, putting the word out that we would be open with music playing and things to read and just a space to be. And then that night, a few minutes to talk about how we were feeling and thinking. And throughout the day, people came. People who had never stepped foot in a church before in their life. People certainly who were not a part of our community somehow heard and they came. And when we gathered that night, the chapel was packed. And I've never felt such a powerful sense of both connection and deep despair. In that room, there were many families. Among them, many of them immigrants, are part of the LGBTQIA community. And they were in profound despair, fearing for the safety and sanctity of their families. And the coming months really showed the urgency, as almost immediately there were changes that you could feel in the air. It was almost as if the earth sensed some sort of shift that was happening. And we worked very hard to think about how we would resist some of the most destructive components of that shift. And here we are, so many years later. And I definitely feel like so much of that work is still in front of us. Knowing what it means when that work goes on year after year. How to find the space in our lives, the strength, the resilience to continue to resist feels, if I let it be, overwhelming, dispiriting. But the thing is that the more we explore what resistance actually asks of us, the more that it carries us forward into life. It is important to remember that at its essence, resistance is seeking to keep the larger possibilities of life alive. Resistance is an act of creation and creativity. It is an artful engagement that attests to the power of our human spirit again and again, not only in this time, but drawing from the strength of our history. That we step, when we resist, into good company. And so there is a powerful temptation to feel like the ability to re-energize our lives for that work is very hard. And that's okay. That is part of what human beings have experienced again and again as they think about what they are willing to do to reclaim their lives. Not always just in the larger perspective, but in a daily way, in the midst of the hard things that we face in our lives. All of those ask us, by reclaiming, to resist that which might otherwise shut down our spirit, might pull us away from what it means to be more alive. And so, I remind you to remember some of the wisdom around resistance this month, and to think about what paths of resistance feel right for you. What components of your life are asking you to not be carried forward without deep thought, without some powerful feeling, without some inner wisdom that asks you to stop. Dorothea Zola wrote, "We are all guardians of joy and responsible for making life's beauty visible and audible." Sure, there is a lot of important political work that needs to be done now. But even in the midst of that, may we remember that what we are seeking is more life, not just for ourselves, but for each other, and more joy and more creativity. To resist is to remember the power of love to say yes to life, To resist is to lean into the beauty of our human family and to say yes to life. To say yes asks us to resist. So what are some of the pathways, maybe unexpected pathways, that might be understood as resistance? In addition to exploring these in this month, here are just a couple of them that, as I thought about it, surprised me, but I believe there's great wisdom. One of the ways that you can resist is to rest. It's written, Ella Baker taught us, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. And I wrestle with these words all the time. And it's true, I do not rest in terms of how I work. I work and show up for movements I believe in. I tirelessly seek out old and new ways of moving through our current paradigm and into the work that we're called to. But when it calls to my body and mind, I rest. I rest in myriad ways that allow me to show up fully for each thing that I do. I ensure that I have quiet time every day and a bath when there is a tub available and at least 7 hours of sleep each night. That is part of the resistance as well. When our bodies are burnt out and our spirits are empty, we do not do good work. Walter Brueggemann wrote, in our own context, the rat race of anxiety, that it is important to celebrate what was originally lifted up by the Sabbath as an act of resistance and an alternative to that understanding. To resist is a visible insistence that our lives are not defined by the production and consumption of commodity and goods. The ways that we choose to use our downtime, to use it fully and well and honor its power, is an essential way to resist. The other essential component I want to lift up for resistance is that sense of joy in the work. In his poem, A Brief Defense, as the poet talks about all of the ways in the world that there is deep sorrow and destructiveness and suffering, he concludes, Jack Gilbert, this: if we deny our happiness, resist our satisfaction, we lessen the importance of the deprivation of the world. We must risk delight. We can do without pleasure, but not delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of the world. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. I love that idea that in the ways that we give ourselves to the joy that is around us, we refuse to let the also equal truth of suffering have the final word. We refuse to give ourselves only to that important work, but to also remember the ways that we restore joy, not only in our lives, but in the lives around us. Think of the way that Deneau really did that moment of imagination. He helped those folks remind themselves of something deeper than that moment, some bit of hope that may have seemed absolutely absurd in that moment, but also had a deep sense of whimsy and joy. How might we give ourselves to that more often? And finally, I invite us to remember that we are called to resist that sense of hopelessness and cynicism that is so rampant in the world around us. Stephen Colbert said this: cynicism masquerades as wisdom, but it is the farthest thing from it, because cynics don't learn anything. Because cynicism is a self-imposed blindness, a rejection of the world because we are afraid it will hurt us or disappoint us. Think about all the things that you do every day when you connect with your better self, and understand that that may be some of the most powerful foundation for how you will resist all that would claim your joy, all that would claim the ability of people to live their lives fully and healthily. All of us resist every day. If we were more aware of it, we might use it more fully and more lovingly. I end in the same way, the same author as we began with Gretchen Haley. These times ask us to be what Martin Luther King Jr. called creatively maladjusted. These times ask us to see and name what is not right, what is disordered in the world, and refuse to believe it is normal or acceptable or moral, and instead to believe that we are meant for something else, to accept peace and equality and mutual respect for everyone, including ourselves. These are times that ask us to come together in our congregations as part of what the Unitarian Universalist minister Rebecca Parker calls a community of resistance, which she defines as the habitation in which people learn ways to survive and thrive so that they can resist and sometimes even transform an unjust culture. It is good for us to be together in that work. You each bring some gift to it. In this month, may we think about how to strengthen that and understand its power and purpose. May that be so. Amen, and blessed be. Let's rise in the ways that we do and sing 162, "Gonna lay down my sword and shield."
Riverside.
And now, as we extinguish this flame, which actually is already out, but symbolically, as we extinguish it, we remember that we do not extinguish the power of our choices, the wisdom that has been a part of our lives and long before we were born, or the power of love and its warmth. Those remain in how you live your life until you gather in this place again. I invite you to take a seat and receive one more gift before we move on in our day. Thanks, one and all, for joining us today. Take a moment as you're leaving to say hello to someone that you have not spoken to before. If you're able, join us for coffee hour, and we look forward to seeing you again here soon. As you go forth into this day, may it be filled with blessings that carry you through this week. We hope to see you soon. Take care.